I wanted to start the night off. Thank you guys for joining me. We have 45 on right now. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. I'm so happy you could hear me. So I want to just talk about a lot of different things, and then I'll take all of your questions as well. So the first thing, thanks, Clark. The first thing I wanted to say was this week, and I don't think we should not ignore this at all. Okay. So Amazon, they announced that they laid off 14,000 people. And a lot of these 14,000 people were like, worked at the company, like kind of white collar workers, as well as they have in the factories. And I don't think they've done this widespread because they're actually hiring, especially for the holidays, in some of the factories where they're getting the packages together. But there is a warehouse in Louisiana that they're trying to, okay, let me see how we can use robots most effectively, robots and AI, in order to reduce the amount of people we need to hire. So I think everybody at least needs to pay attention to the amount of layoffs that are coming, and the companies that are saying we're laying off people because of AI. AI makes companies more efficient, so they don't need as many people to do the same amount of work. So I think everybody needs to look at their position, whatever they're doing, and say, okay, is there a chance that my business may be impacted by this? It may not be this year. It could be a year from now. It could be 2 years from now, but it's not going to be as long as you think, because a lot of these things are coming on, like change is happening very, very quickly. So whether you have to get an updated skill set, if you have to make sure that you are positioned correctly in your employment, I just want you, don't be blindsided if somebody says, hey, we're laying off 20% of the workforce, and you may be in that 20%. Because right now, a lot of young people coming out of college, like in their 20s, it's very hard for them, and they're college graduates. It's hard for them right now to find jobs. So, that's why a lot of people, number one, is expensive, right? And it's hard to find a job. So a lot of young people are coming out of college, they're living at home until they find something. And it's becoming difficult because some of those entry level white collar jobs, they don't need as many of those people anymore because AI is doing some of that work. So don't ignore when you see major layoffs, you need to pay attention. Don't think that because UPS, like even real estate, let me give you my business, for example. I'm not directly impacted by people getting laid off at Amazon, but people getting laid off at UPS. But the less people that are employed, the less people can buy homes, right? So that directly impacts real estate. So where you think something may not impact you, it could impact you because the people that can buy things need to be employed in order for them to buy those things. So please pay attention to that. And I see I'm going to put Curtis Jackson on here. Curtis is my birthday twin. Our birthdays are August 31st. He says, good evening, Ms. Hill. I lost my job recently, but I have tenants that covered our mortgage. I'm still applying for jobs until I can get back to work. So this is a very prime example. So he had positioned himself before he needed to, right? Because he had that extra income. He bought a house last year. And I don't think, just going by back and forth with Curtis, I don't think he bought more house than what he probably needed. He probably made sure it was something that he could afford. And he has tenants that are paying for that mortgage. Or paying for some of that mortgage. So this is not a time to overextend yourself. When I'm watching those Instagram closings and that sort of thing, I'm always looking to say, okay, especially with couples, I would say couples, right? Because now most couples, you have a 2-income household. Y'all need to see if y'all can live off of one person's income and still buy that house. Would you still be comfortable if one person was unemployed? You have to get into that kind of mindset if you're buying a house right now. Or, I always tell people, single moms, if you weren't getting, because you can use child support. Thank you, Curtis, for that example. And I hope you find employment soon. I know you're very employable. You're a Virgo, so I'm sure you'll do well. So in this instance, a lot of single parents that you can use your child support to qualify for a home as long as it's been pretty consistent and it's expected to continue. A lot of people don't know, say you have an older child and that child is like 16, 15, then they usually don't count the child support because it's not going to continue more than 3 years from the date that you're purchasing. But if you have younger children, they will count that child support into your income, and that will improve what you can qualify for. But if you're a single parent, I always tell people, can you afford it? If the child support stopped for some reason, could you still afford that mortgage? Those are the kind of things that you need to be thinking about, especially right now in this economy. What do we have? A government shutdown. We have layoffs happening. They're not cutting interest rates just to cut interest rates. They're cutting interest rates because cutting interest rates, let me get back on and go ahead and put your questions in the chat. I'm going to talk about two things before I get into open questions. But the reason why the Fed yesterday cut interest rates wasn't because inflation is coming down. Inflation is actually up. It's close to that 3%. And the goal is 2% inflation, but it's higher. But he's cutting interest rates because the job market is starting to get softer. There are more people potentially losing their jobs. Companies are saying, we are laying off people, or we plan to lay off people in 2026, or they already started to lay off people. So they're seeing that people are, they said, slow to hire and also slow to fire, but now they're ramping up these firings or these layoffs. So they're reducing interest rates. So to try to incentivize companies to hire more people. So it's not that they're reducing interest rates because the economy is doing so well. It's because they see some, challenges in the economy. So they're reducing interest rates because of that. So, and somebody said, yeah, a crash is coming. I'm not saying a crash is coming, but what we're seeing, especially in the real estate market, people are not like everybody, people are still buying homes, but definitely not as many as before. New construction right now, they're trying to incentivize people in any way possible. You are getting your appliances, you're getting a lower interest rate, you're getting more incentives. They have inventory on the market that nobody is touching because of that uncertainty, especially even though like somebody like D.R. Horton, they sell more affordable homes. But the problem is those affordable homes, the people are like middle-class people who, if one person works at the airport, for example, or TSA, and they're not getting paid, those kind of things, they're more vulnerable. So the people that are spending money are usually the upper income people right now, where the middle class, which is a majority of the people, or a good majority of the people that could buy a house, are like, let me just wait. Let me see what's going to happen first before I commit to this. So I think that everybody needs to be thinking, shoot, I ramped up. Somebody said on my thing, because I have my masterclass. I've been selling it probably for about 2 or 3 years. And I was like, I haven't put this out here in a minute. I need to put it back out there. This is not, so you can see in my post about my masterclass, because if somebody's in the market for a house, that will save them money. Even though they're going to buy it, it's going to save them money because they'll know what's going on. But even me, I'm like, okay, if things slow down, I need to make sure other things are moving at the same time. So just make sure I'm not just talking to you, I'm talking to myself as well, to say, if people stop buying homes significantly, what other areas do I need to make sure that I shore up? And so that's what you should be doing yourself. Clark, the realtor, says different trades for sure. You're going to see, especially, a lot of people, SNAP benefits may stop November 1st, which that is Saturday. And, some states are trying to put some safeguards in. Some states are not. Not only are the people that need those benefits not going to have them, but that's how Walmart stays profitable a lot of times. Walmart, the supermarkets, because a big portion of those people have those SNAP benefits, that could cut a big percentage of the grocery sales that normally would get done in November, right? So it doesn't just impact one group of people. When things happen in the economy, it rolls over to everyone. So just be mindful of that. The other thing is, so the Federal Reserve cut interest rates yesterday, but mortgage rates went up. So today rates are at this is the 30-year fixed conventional, is at 6.33. It was at the lowest at, in the last couple of weeks, like at 6.13. So it's going up. And then FHA is at 6.05. And that's why I'm always saying make sure you get 2 quotes, because conventional is usually going to be higher than FHA. So it's a good time, to make sure you're getting multiple quotes. But in this example, why are mortgage rates going up is because after the Fed lowers interest rates, they usually have a press conference after, and they talk about the decisions that they made, why they made those decisions. And they were saying that before it was like a guarantee, they were going to cut interest rates in December and cut interest rates again. Now they're not guaranteeing that going forward. They're saying, hey, we got to look at it because inflation is going up as well. So they don't want prices to go up and people don't have jobs. So they're trying to balance those 2 things. So there's not a definite, right, of people, being able to cutting rates. It's not definite that rates are going to cut in the near future because inflation is still going up. So those are things I wanted to talk about. I left the stage. I feel like very transparent. If you watch my old videos going into the pandemic, I was like, we're cutting off this, we're cutting off that, because we were very uncertain as to what was going to happen. So because I'm self-employed, I need to make sure that my different streams of income, they're at least all moving, right? I can't just, I'm not going to do this anymore, I'm not going to do that anymore. Everything needs to move. So that's my husband's going to have a job. He's a teacher. He's probably, going, and you know what, in saying that out my mouth, I'm like, the whole Department of Education has been laid off for the most part. So even those things are not guaranteed. So I don't want to say that's a guarantee, but typically teaching jobs are a little bit more stable. So he does that. And, but I need to make sure on my end that, all of those other things are still moving, and I'm being more conscious of it. Like if I have things that are revenue makers or profit centers for me, but I haven't really been promoting them or, doing anything with them lately, like now I'm paying attention to say, okay, I need to put this out. I need to put that out. And so that's what I want you guys to do, is pay attention. Like, what are you not paying attention to? What are some ways you could be cutting back? What are some ways that you could be making more money? Things that, and I say, work with your skills you already have. You don't have to go to school for 2 years in order to make money. Like, the time is now for you to be cutting back, for you to save money and try to earn extra money and put that away so you have a strong emergency fund, or emergency fund / opportunity fund. Because if there is a crash or if things do go down in value, guess what? You need to have some money. The reason why a lot of people got rich during like the recession is because they had money to invest when everything was low, where other people, myself included, I didn't have any money. Like homes in Atlanta were going for like $50,000 or $70,000, like nice homes. I was like, I should buy a couple of those, but I didn't have any money. So just be prepared and have some money. Definitely an emergency fund. Those of you that already have an emergency fund, then start putting together an opportunity fund. So if there are opportunities to invest, opportunities to buy real estate, if things do go down, you're ready for that. And I know somebody's going to ask me, is it a good time to buy a house? I think it's the time, if you're finding a very good deal and the payment is much lower than, you would probably pay for a rental right now. That would be until everything is more clear as to how the economy is going, I'd be very cautious that I'm buying way below my means. If you're buying with a spouse, can one person afford it if one person was unemployed? If you're buying by yourself and you're a single parent, could I afford it if I wasn't, and you're getting child support, could I afford it if I didn't get child support? Do I have an emergency fund if I'm laid off for a couple of months and I can't work? Those are the things that you really need to think about before you're in the real estate market. All right, now I'm going to answer your question. So let me go ahead. I'm going to put your questions in the chat. I'll answer questions about anything right now. So it could be about AI. And I'm telling you, if y'all raise your hand if you're not on ChatGPT. Like everybody needs to be on ChatGPT, because number one, you'll see how quickly AI works, and it might be like, oh my goodness, right? A lot of the questions that people ask me sometimes on here, like somebody asked me, should they put 20% down on their house or should they do something else? If you give ChatGPT all of those numbers, they will like, oh, this is, I want to put 20% down, but I still have debt, but I still have this. When will I break even? You can ask ChatGPT all that, and they're going to tell you what's the best finance in numbers, not in like feeling, right? Do you feel better because you have more money saved, or do you feel better because your home is more paid off? But they can tell you numbers wise which one is the better decision, right? So everybody needs to be on ChatGPT. If you, it's an app on your phone. It is a site on the computer. Use either one. I have both. So make sure that you are doing that. All right. So put your questions in the chat. I'm going back up to make sure I didn't miss anybody. Let's see. Justin Max. I'm sorry if I'm saying it wrong. The Home Depot launched the Path to Pro program. They're offering training and certification in trade jobs. AI and robots won't affect blue collar trade jobs. And this is a very important thing as well. Like you said, services are still going to be needed. Everybody's going to need a plumber. Everybody's going to need an electrician. Everybody, people are going to need these trade jobs. So if you have, especially younger people that maybe they didn't go straight to college, maybe they went to college and they can't find a job. And a lot of times the trade jobs, they'll have technical schools in your state. They're not that expensive to go to. So yeah, I definitely agree with that. I did hear about the Home Depot. So I guess you could just Google that if you know somebody in your family that would work for, or yourself. Go ahead and, put that in. Good comment for sure. All right. Curtis Jackson says, I'm curious, what do you love most about being a homeowner, Ms. Hill? This is, number one is stability. Like, I like the fact that for the most part, my mortgage has been the same for I moved into this house about 9 years ago now. So we've lived here for 9 years, 2026, that's about 9 years. And my mortgage hasn't, I think when we closed, the mortgage was like $1,500, maybe $1,550 or something like that. Now it's, because taxes have gone up, now it's about $1,700. So it's gone up about $200 in 9 years. So that's something that a lot of people can't say with their rent amounts. And even though when I bought this house, I was a teacher, those of you that don't know, I was a full-time high school teacher. And I stopped teaching in 2020, did real estate and YouTube full time. I've still been able to, like, we didn't get up and move because I'm making more money. So it's allowed me to say, okay, my primary expenses are really pretty low, because we're still like, we haven't like, oh, we're going to get a new house. Oh, we're going to get new cars. When we get cars, pretty much we still buy used cars. We paid off cars. So we're living very much below our means, but the stability the house gives us, our kids can go to the same school. They stay with their friends, because both my husband and I kind of grew up in the same house. I moved in high school, but we kind of grew up in the same house, like elementary school, middle school. He was in high school. And that stability in schools and friends is the kind of childhood we wanted them to have. So number one is stability and knowing what my bills are going to be, and not have to say, well, I need to sell or I need to move because the landlord is telling me something different. And then I also like the fact that we could really slowly, and I said slowly, like upgrade our home. Like this home, I have a D.R. Horton home myself, and it was built in 2005, and we're the third owners. So, and interestingly enough, the house that we own, it was the original owner who bought a house with their mom on the same street. The mom still lives here, but the daughter moved, but I have the daughter's house. And so they had bought their homes at the same time. I think the daughter foreclosed, if I'm not mistaken. Then the person that we bought the house from, this is like during the recession, the house that we bought the house from, they bought it like for a really good deal during the recession of like 2008, 9, 10, whatever. And then we bought it from them. So we're the third owners. And the mother, because when we moved in, she's like, oh, my daughter used to live here. And so, but slowly, and I say slowly because I don't like to put a lot of money out at one time. Like we redid the floors. We, the stove went out. So we got a new stove. We got a new refrigerator. We painted the outside of the house. Our house used to be green. We painted it. So we painted it like a gray color. What else? We were able to slowly kind of do things in it to make it more, and I'm not the best decorator, of course, but to make it more homely. So I'm a Virgo, so I like stability. I don't like a lot of change. So homeownership has allowed me to do that. It's allowed us to build wealth because we're not worried that, okay, we can't afford our mortgage because, like I said, if one person wasn't working, we could still live here comfortably. So I like that. I like the equity that we're able to build. I tell my kids that we're not going to sell this house. They would be able to get, either the equity of this house or whatever, when we pass, like this will be theirs. So doing that kind of generational wealth, right? Those are all the things that I like about it. Put what y'all like about it in the comments so I can ask, but good question. So I can answer some more of your questions. And thank you guys for joining me tonight. We're at 151, which is awesome. All right, so while I'm looking for the next question, in the title I put, prepare for AI job losses, because they are coming. I don't know if they're going to come in your field, but they're definitely coming. And I was saying prepare for foreclosures because a lot of people have overbought and assumed, right, that their career was going to be their long term. And not only is it going to be, if you don't reskill, and you're not going to be able to find another job very quickly. So you want to make sure, like I love that Curtis put that in there. What can you be doing in your home to say, okay, can I rent out my basement? Some people move out on the weekends if they're like in a big city and they Airbnb their house for, during different events. What other things can you do to bring more money? Like make that home work for you, but don't just go out and take like home equity loans out, because if you cannot, because that was somebody, I think they did get, or they were maybe going to get laid off and they were thinking about getting a home equity loan, but how are you going to pay it? That was my issue. And then you're putting your home at risk. It's better for you to reach out to your lender, see if there's any forbearances. There are a lot of options right now because of the government shutdown for people that can't pay their mortgage. I'm going to do that before I take on more debt, because you're putting your house at risk. And now you have two loans that you have to pay. All right, back to questions, you guys. Okay, so questions. So I like y'all are talking about the different trades. I see that. Curtis Jackson said, I took a chance by buying a 4-bedroom house with 1 bathroom. I'm looking to add a 2nd bathroom, and I've been doing some renovations, like a tankless hot water heater. So very good, very good. And if you can, buy a fixer upper where you're going to have equity, that the 203K program, although I didn't have luck with it myself, the 203K program is a good program for people that you find a house, but it needs some work. You're able to add the renovations. You can add appliances to the cost of the house, and it can still make a house that maybe is a fixer upper more affordable than buying a new construction house or a resale house. So put 203Ks on your list. Curtis also says, I see there's a bunch of cancellations. Okay, let's talk about cancellations really quickly. So a cancellation in real estate, whether you're doing new construction or whether you're doing a resale or buying somebody's home, and you just change your mind during the transaction. It could be because of a job loss. It could be because you're nervous that the economy's not doing well. It could be just you changed your mind. You need to make sure that you have safe. Number one, there's probably going to be earnest money or some kind of deposit you put down with that house. And you're going to be at risk of losing that if you don't cancel in your contingencies. So if you lost your job and you had a finance contingency, then you would get a loan cancellation, a loan denial letter and get your earnest money back because you no longer qualify. But if you still have your job and you're just nervous and you're like, I just don't want it anymore, then you could be at risk of losing your earnest money. So earnest money is about 1% of the home price. I would say for anybody now, try to put as little earnest money down as possible, and make sure you have a long finance contingency just in case you change your mind or if you have some kind of financial changes. But if you can get away, because right now a lot of you guys are in buyers markets or more balanced markets, if you can get away with putting like $2,000 down, $3,000 down, then do that, because that's easier to say, I'm just going to walk away from that than losing a lot of money. So if you can put down as little earnest money as possible and still get your offer approved, then think about that, especially during this time. All right, so go ahead and put your questions in the chat. Thank you. Just thank you for these nuggets. Thank you for listening. Thank you for coming. All right, Curtis, you put all your stuff in the thing. All right, so Kay Paulette is saying, would short-term rentals work if the house is owner occupied? My neighbor wants to rent out rooms in her house. The HOA would not allow a hardship rental because of the community rental cap. So let's talk about rental caps first really quickly. So if you're in an HOA, a lot of HOAs have rental caps. So before you buy in a community, you need to look at the HOA restrictions to say, is there a rental cap? Like basically, if there's 100 homes and the rental cap is 10%, then no more than 10 homes in that community can be rented out at any one time. And then it becomes a waiting list after that. And if you rent it, and she was saying a hardship, so say that you say, well, I'm trying to sell my house, but it didn't sell. Now I need to put it onto a rental. Then you might be able to get a hardship, like you tried to sell it, you couldn't sell it, now it needs to be a rental. But if they don't approve that, then you can get fined for renting out your house, and then it's a whole nother thing. So make sure before you buy, if you want the option to rent your house, get the HOA documents ahead of time. Okay, HOA documents ahead of time so you can review them. If you need to put the offer in, that in the contract, I want you to put in the special stipulations that seller to provide HOA covenants and restrictions within 24 hours of the contract date. So you can possibly, rent out rooms as part of this if you're still going to be living there, right? Because you could have somebody living with you, but they could still be living there. However, and I had this happen to someone, so I want you guys to be aware of this. They rented out their basement and rentals were not approved by the HOA. And, these renters, if you don't know these people well, so I would only rent out probably to people that you know. If you don't know these people well and they know the restrictions, there's a lot of scammers out here. So they were living there maybe 2 months and there were some issues or something. They didn't want to pay anymore. So they sent a letter to the HOA with their lease saying, I'm renting at this house, and I don't know if they're allowed to rent here. And then they were getting fined by the HOA. Plus, they had this person living in their house. You have rental laws and eviction rules in a lot of areas. So I would number one, ask, get whatever you're going to do in writing. So your friend needs to ask if it's possible to rent out rooms under the HOA. And if they say yes, always hold that in writing, because you could still be living there. You could rent out rooms. Or the better thing is, if you can, family, friends, people that that you could maybe have like an agreement with them, because what'll happen is you have adults moving in with you, then their cars are parked maybe on the street or they're parked, you know what I mean? And so that kind of tips off the HOA that other people are living there. And you just want to make sure you're doing everything above board. And I say that because a lot of HOAs start finding you by the day. Like they'll say, well, for every day that you have people living here that they're renting from you, then we're going to fine you $100. And those things start adding up substantially. So I would say, look at the HOA, ask the HOA if you can do it. If they approve it, get it in writing, and then you can do it. Because some HOAs do allow rentals as long as the owner is still living there. So then you can rent out other people. I think there's pad split, like PAD split. That site allows you to sell rooms and not rent out your entire house if you don't know anybody. But again, get approval for that first. Good question. Put the rest of your questions in. Curtis says, I use ChatGPT every day. It's awesome. And I just want everybody to at least get on it, because you need to be aware of the capabilities. And I think that opens people's eyes to say, okay, well, like I used to teach Excel, for example. And that was like one of our like lessons that I would teach at the school. And now you really don't need Excel for the most part, because they will do all the analysis for you within ChatGPT. You just have to know the right prompt to use. So some of the things that, we taught are like obsolete right now. So they're changing the curriculum in schools and that sort of thing. So in that, one employee probably can do the job of like three employees, because everything's so much faster. Justin says, I don't know if it's Justin Maxim. Are you thinking about starting a new business, or are you going to ramp up your current business? Both. So I am ramping up. So I do a couple of different things. So I do some real estate, and I have one person on my team. So we work together, and I'm doing more, like I might bring another agent on my team where I can kind of back out of the one-on-one working with clients. I sell my masterclass. I also have an agent course for agents on YouTube, but I always wanted to do like just anybody on YouTube, because when I'm teaching people, agents, how to get business from YouTube, the things that I'm teaching them can be for anybody to help their YouTube channel grow, but I haven't done that yet. So that would be an example of me expanding what I offer, not just to real estate agents, but to anybody. So like say you cook and you want to have a YouTube channel, how do you get views? Or, you do anything. How can you get views or increase your views and how can you monetize your YouTube channel for any kind of, for any person? So that might be an idea of expansion for me, where I'm not just tied to real estate. But yeah, so I'm thinking of everything, because I want to be prepared. I hate doing things when you're in crisis mode. Like right now, it's not a crisis. People are still kind of, moving along, but there could be a time that I could see that, people aren't that worried about buying a house, right? Because they may be struggling financially, but they're worried. They might be looking at ways to make money. So they may say, I need to get on social media. I need to start a YouTube channel, so I'll be in that area as well. But good question. All right, I'm just going down the questions, you guys. All right. Also, what do you think about assuming a mortgage loan versus buying a home the normal way? So I do have a video on assuming a mortgage and how that works. And I do love that idea. But what a lot of people don't think about is you're going to be paying that difference. So if somebody bought a house in, say, 2021, somebody bought a house 4 years ago, and now they're ready to sell it, that home has increased in value. So say they bought it for $200,000, but now it's worth $300,000. And now they owe on their mortgage, they owe $175,000. So you can't assume that mortgage and say their interest rate is 3%. You can assume that 3% mortgage and take over the balance of $175,000. Okay. And that's a very good idea. Very smart. But you have to figure out how you're going to make up that other $125,000, that because they're still selling their house for $300,000. You could assume the $175,000 in that mortgage, but you have to plan for that $125,000 that they want. And so that's you taking out a second mortgage. Some people have sold a house, so they have the cash to cover that difference. But you have to think of how are you paying that additional. And that's why a lot of people, assumptions sometimes doesn't work for a lot of people, because that second mortgage usually is at a higher rate. And so it doesn't, it's not as good of a deal as they thought it was going to be. So you want to find somebody that you can assume that doesn't have that much equity, but has a low interest rate. So if you can find that, or you find a really good deal on that second mortgage, or you have money saved to pay that money directly, that's when it makes the most sense. Good question. Okay. But I do have a video on mortgage assumptions, so please watch that. Kennedy 4543 says, do you think the house prices will decrease soon? I think they will. I think, but not dramatically. Like, I don't think home prices year over year have still gone up, but not as much. There's not like these 10% price increases, 20% price increases. They might be like 2%, 3%, 4%. They're going up. But I think right now, especially in the market that we're in, the government shut down, people getting laid off, interest rates are still, high for people's affordability, that prices will start coming down, but not like to recession levels unless more people get laid off, right? So that's the fear right now. And that's what's being said, but they don't want people to panic, because little by little, major companies are starting to lay off people. Now, most people work for small businesses for the most part, businesses that are less than 500 employees. But and so they haven't been saying that yet, but little by little, people are getting laid off, but it's not a panic right now. But look at African American unemployment rate is like at the last time I looked was at 7.5%, where overall unemployment was at like 4.3% or so. So Black unemployment is high. That would be like a crisis if, all unemployment was at 4% or so. I'm sorry, at 7%. So you have to just think about your situation. And I know you asked me if prices are going down. I think they're going to go down, but remember, the majority of people in their homes have low mortgage rates. So a lot of people will stay that are still employed or can't afford it. But I do think, if things stay how they are, like layoffs continue, government shutdown goes longer than it should, then, prices will come down. That's why I said right now is a time to, unless you have to buy, there are going to be some deals. Remember, Halloween to January, if people still have their homes on the market during this time, during the holidays, or builders still have standing inventory, they're going to discount it big time to incentivize people to buy in November and December. And that's the same thing that home sellers are going to do, resell homes. They're going to discount their homes because a lot of people are still sitting on that equity. So they have equity. They're not going to take a loss typically. If they bought their home before 2023, they probably have equity where they can work with you and pay your closing costs and, go come down on the price a little bit. But you need to make sure that's an investment you want to make right now. All right, good question. All right, so please hit the like button, the thumbs up button. I appreciate it. I got on a little bit late, so I'm going to stay till 8:05 today. Oh, thank you for the super sticker. Thank you. And you always, Kimnetta, make sure I say your name right. And I'm on my smaller computer because for some reason the bigger computer didn't turn on. So yes, thank you so much for the super sticker. I appreciate it. And thank you for always doing those. I recognize your name as soon as I saw it. I really do appreciate those over the years. Thank you. Let's see. Neff Sells Home, get AI trainings and certifications that you can add to your resume. This is actually my sister, y'all. Get AI trainings and certifications. She works for HR and she does real estate. Get AI trainings and certifications that you can add to your resume and LinkedIn profile. AWS and Salesforce has some free courses right now backed by the federal government. Some expire in December. So start searching for those. Very good information. Update your resume, show them that you know how to use AI. Very important. Miss Christie says multi-generational living again, families working together for sure. I've been talking about multi-generational living for a while now, but it's going to be, again, like you said, people have houses that are way bigger than what they need. A lot of us, especially in the South, they just build a bigger house typically. So there's like 2 people living or 2 or 3 people living, they got a 5-bedroom house. So this is a time to look and say, okay, how can we consolidate? Who can move in with me? Kids that have graduated or that may have gotten an apartment, let them come back in, let them start saving, let them start getting some additional training, and have them contribute something. Not only should they save, but they need to pay utility or some, don't just have them living for free, whether you're going to have them pay something and you're holding it for them, or they're actually contributing to some of the bills in the house, then that's something that you definitely can do. My mother just turned the Florida room into an efficiency and rented it out. So good. All right. Somebody's saying, I use Furnished Finder short-term rental to traveling and medical professionals. It pays 100% of my mortgage. That's excellent. Hey, Miss Butterscotch. Hi, everybody. All right. So go ahead. Somebody said market surveys for income. It can be lucrative. Put some, so Benz, if you know of some, put some legitimate ones, because there's so many scams out there with these surveys. If you feel like you know of some legitimate places, then put that in the chat. Everybody do your due diligence, but please do that. All right, Mimi says, after 6 months of 2 failed contracts, my townhome finally sold. I'm currently looking for a new construction outside of the metro, and prices are high everywhere. Yeah, so I would maybe sit back a little bit, Mimi. Hopefully you made money on your house. Hopefully you made money on your townhouse. Sit back and look for some of those deals that are going to come in from the builders who are trying to sell their standing inventory. So if you are trying to find new construction, there will be deals. They may not be putting them out right now, but I promise you, November, December, you're going to start seeing, I already see the deals, but a lot of times they'll start incentivizing agents first, like agent bonuses. Okay, if you bring a buyer to us, not only will we give you 3%, but we'll give you a $10,000 bonus. And the reason why they don't incentivize, like take it off the price, is because they don't want to show that their prices are coming down that much. But yeah, there are already builders offering bonuses to agents, different incentives, but they will start coming off the price when they can't sell their standing inventory. So just sit, put your money into a high yield savings account for now. You don't want to put it in the stock market and be hard for you to get it out, because if you're going to be buying a home soon, but just wait and kind of look to make sure. There are going to be definitely some deals out there. Hi, everyone. All right. So, okay, what is your recommendation for staying on top of the homes that might become foreclosed, or generally the houses where homeowners are more eager to sell? Are there exclusive websites? So foreclosure.com, I did a video on foreclosure. Just put foreclosure in the search engine when you're searching for my videos. I did a video on foreclosures. But foreclosure.com is, it's free to get in, but then there's a paid version of that site that can show you when things foreclose before it gets to the courthouse steps. Also, they'll have like pre-foreclosures. So when people begin to be late on their payments, they might have gotten one letter, that kind of thing. So you may be able to catch them early if you're trying to buy something, because a lot of people just don't I don't want to say handle business, but they'll kind of ignore things for a little while, thinking that I'll just get caught up, I'll just do this. If you're in a situation right now, definitely if you're furloughed, or, you're part of this government shutdown, you should be reaching out to your mortgage company, your rent now. Like it shouldn't get to a foreclosure because they'll have programs in place for people like that, right? So you can put your mortgage on forbearance while you're not getting paid. And then when you resume payment, the government opens back up, then you catch up on those payments. You need to be calling all of your anything that you're responsible for. You need to be calling everybody now and putting those arrangements in place so you don't, destroy your credit during these few months. But for foreclosures, if you're trying to take advantage, like on the investment side, then you probably do want to go to some place like foreclosure.com and auction.com, foreclosure.com. They're very similar. But just know you have to have cash. Unless you're trying to buy, like, so you're going to reach out to that homeowner and try to buy their house before they foreclose, then you can do a mortgage that way. But once they actually foreclose, then you have to have a cash to buy it on the courthouse steps. But watch that video for that question. Thank you, guys. All right, Furnished Finders. I love the chat. Y'all talking about some good things in the chat. Let's see. Della 2. I'm not gonna say all y'all names. Is there such a thing as FHA 100% financing program? And how many grants could I stack or add to FHA or conventional? So there's not a such thing as an FHA 100%, because FHA loans, you have to put 3.5% down. However, there might be some lenders that are trying to do something to, help you with that down payment. And they may be calling it 100% financing, but the majority of the 100% financing programs are going to be conventional. Like the true lender programs that are 100% financing are conventional loans. So that's the answer to that question. And how many grants? It really depends. It really depends. On the last live that I did, that lady that lived in Durham, North Carolina, she qualified for 6 different grants, and that's how she got the $187,000. Now, that's not common. Like in Atlanta, there's only 2 grants that you can stack, and you have to be living in the city of Atlanta. Like when we say Atlanta, I'll say I live in Atlanta, but I really don't live in the city of Atlanta. I live in the suburbs of Atlanta. So, but I know people haven't heard of where I live. So I say I live in Atlanta because people have heard of that before. So I wouldn't qualify. If somebody was living in my area, they wouldn't qualify for those grants and be able to stack them. So it really depends on the city that you're moving to, how many opportunities that city has, and then what programs they allow people to use with each other. So go back to that video last week. In that description, then I have 2 links. One, you have to put in your email. You have to put in a lot of information. The other one, you don't. So I put both of them there. So you have access to all of the programs in your city. And they should tell you, you should be able to reach out to them and see which ones you can use together. Good question. All right. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Please we're at 185. So we have a lot on this Thursday. Mickey W says, if you can preserve your mental health, then okay, try multi-generational living. That is, we have to be realistic. So you're moving in. If you ever watch Blackish, the show Blackish, both of their parents lived with them, and there was always a little bit of drama, but they, it was TV, but they actually had a house that was a little bit outside. I think they had a pool house or something like that. They didn't live in the main house. So you just want to make sure, to me, with multi-generational living, you want ideally to have 2 living spaces where one group has their own kitchen. I just closed this summer, and we were looking for a while. Clients had to sell their house, and then they bought a house where their parents were going to move in with them. And they found a house that was a ranch with a basement, and the basement had multiple rooms and a kitchen in the basement. So the parents, even though they, the plan was for them to both help one another, the parents still wanted to be independent, where they didn't have to go up, go in the same kitchen. If they wanted to make a different meal, they still wanted their own space. So if you can do something like that, then that's really ideal. I think so everybody's not right on top of each other. All right, but thank you guys. All right, good comment. Not really a question, good comment though. All right, answered that question. Make sure you're putting question marks by your things, because sometimes you guys are talking to one another and sometimes you actually have questions. All right. Thank you, Elle, for putting in all the comments. Sharna Mosley says, this current situation will affect everyone, not just those who are receiving benefits. Be mindful of your purchasing. Yeah, to me, this is not, I'm always because I like stability, I'm always very cautious, especially during these times of buying things that I just don't need. So it's really a time to say, okay, do I really need that? Do I really need to be buying that? Especially with large purchases, they have to make sense, because you want to, like I told you, like real estate is going to be impacted. I'm positive of that, because less people have jobs, less people have money. So you just have to find, not that your income has to decrease, but you have to find other ways to bring in income when things are not as profitable, right? The other thing is, the quickest way to earn money is to stop spending money or to try to save money. So that's another thing that you want to look at. Look at all of your expenses. What are you spending? And is it necessary for you to continue spending in that way? So just be really, really mindful, because if you can start cutting things now, that's like an automatic raise that you could be putting that money away. Like you don't need those things. I mean, just to get your nail, I remember when you could get your nail, like a manicure and pedicure for like $40. It's like $100 now. And sometimes if you're getting like really fancy things on your nails, it's over $100. So you just have to be mindful of the things that you're spending. All right. So any other questions? I think I answered all of the questions. So we may get out of here at 8 o'clock. Let me see. I agree prices way up. I'm holding out for more builder comps and lower prices, but I wanted to say thank you for the best first-time homebuyers masterclass around. Thank you so much, Unique 67. Thank you for getting the masterclass. I really appreciate it. So those of you that don't have it, please go ahead and get it. Let me see if I have the link where I can put it in the chat. I need to be pushing these more. Like I said, I'm going to be doing I'm going to practice what I preach. So if you don't have the masterclass, get it. I'm looking for the link. I'm putting it in here. Thank you. I need to screenshot this like a review. But yeah, thank you so much. What else did I want to say? So be mindful, be cautious. I just don't want people to be surprised by anything. Like as you don't just assume because, those UPS workers are getting laid off, those Amazon workers are getting laid off. It may impact you as well in what you're doing. Not everyone, right? You might be a nurse. They're still going to need a lot of nurses, but in different fields, they're going to start cutting workers. And because when people have less money to spend, that can impact your business as well. I think I'll give y'all a couple more minutes if y'all have any other questions, but I think that's it, you guys. We were able to answer any questions and get out by 8 o'clock. Thank you all for joining me. I'm going to try to go live once a week, mostly on Thursdays, but I'll announce it as early as possible. Thank you guys and have a great night.